There was a time I thought Stephanie and I were unshakable. We had that kind of relationship people envy. Inside jokes, lazy Sunday mornings, a quiet understanding that didn't need words. Or at least that's what I believed. Looking back, I wonder if I was just seeing what I wanted to see. It wasn't one big thing that made me start doubting. It was the little shifts. The way her phone was suddenly always on silent. The way she used to text me throughout the day. But now I'd barely get a busy, talk later. How she started going out more, always with some vague excuse. A work thing, a girl's night, just needing space. First, I brushed it off. We'd been together for 7 years. People change. Lives get busy. And maybe, just maybe, I was overthinking it. Then came the first real crack. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party. One of those backyard gatherings where everyone drinks too much and reminisces about the past. I wasn't feeling great, so I hung back while Stephanie, as always, thrived in the social setting. She was laughing, dancing, letting loose. I loved seeing her like that. But then I noticed him. A guy I barely knew, someone from her work, I think. He was too close. His hand lingering on the small of her back, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. She swayed with him like I was invisible. I told myself it was nothing, just a dance, just drinks. But something in my gut twisted. And for the first time, I had the distinct, sickening feeling that I wasn't the only one in this relationship anymore. That night, I lay in bed beside Stephanie, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled through her phone. She wasn't laughing now. No more playful smiles. Just the dim glow of the screen reflecting off her face. Her fingers moving a little too fast, a little too deliberately. I wanted to ask her. Wanted to say something like, "Who was that guy? Why were you dancing with him like that?" But I didn't. Because what if I was wrong? What if I was just being insecure, needy? So I swallowed it. Told myself it was nothing. Except it wasn't nothing. Over the next few weeks, that feeling in my gut didn't go away. If anything, it grew. Stephanie became more distant. Her late nights got later. When she was home, she was distracted, always half listening. Half there. The woman who used to wrap herself around me in bed now turned away, curling up with her phone like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. And then there were the lies. Small ones at first. "I'm working late." But when I checked, her office closed an hour earlier. Just grabbing drinks with Sarah. Except Sarah had posted an Instagram story from home that night. I fell asleep on the couch. But the sheets in the guest room told a different story. I started paying attention to things I never thought I'd have to. The way she angled her phone away from me. How she started showering right when she got home, like she was washing something or someone off her skin. Then one night she slipped. I was in the kitchen, pretending not to care that she was out late again. The front door creaked open, and I heard the familiar rustle of her setting down her bag. Then, clear as day, she whispered, "I had a great time tonight." My stomach dropped. She thought she had ended the call. But I saw her glance at the screen, her face twisting in panic for half a second before she locked her phone and shoved it into her pocket. I said nothing. Not then. Not yet. Because if I was going to confront her, I needed more than just a gut feeling. I needed proof. I wasn't proud of what I did next. But when someone you love starts lying to your face, when every word out of their mouth feels like a half-truth at best, you start doing things you never thought you'd do. I started watching her more closely. Not in an obvious way, just small things. Checking the car mileage. Noticing when she wore perfume even though she was just running errands. I wasn't the kind of guy to go through her phone. But when she left it on the counter one morning, screen still glowing from a notification, I couldn't help myself. The name on the screen wasn't saved as anything suspicious. Just Ben W. I clicked the message. Can't stop thinking about last night. My hands clenched around the phone. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. There it was. The confirmation I had been dreading. But I still didn't say anything. Not yet. Because catching her in a lie wasn't enough. I needed her to show me, without a doubt, who she really was. So I waited. And then, one night, I got exactly what I needed. We had another gathering to go to. A colleague celebration at a swanky downtown venue. I almost didn't go. The idea of standing next to Stephanie, pretending everything was fine, felt unbearable. But something told me I needed to be there. And I was right. I watched it happen in real time. She swayed with him like I was invisible. Then, I recognized him instantly. Mid-30s, confident in that sleazy way. His hands on her waist like he had every right to be there. And Stephanie? She wasn't pulling away. She wasn't setting any boundaries. She was leaning in, laughing, touching his arm, like I didn't exist. I could have confronted her right then and there, made a scene, demanded answers. But instead, I did something better. I walked away. I left the party without a word, without a fight, without giving her the satisfaction of knowing I cared enough to argue. And that's when something incredible happened. She noticed. For the first time in months, maybe years, she really noticed me. I was halfway to the car when I heard my name. "Wait, where are you going?" I turned slowly, locking eyes with her across the parking lot. Her face was flushed, her expression flickering between confusion and something else. Panic. Because she knew. She knew I had seen. She knew I wasn't playing along anymore. And she was starting to realize, maybe for the first time, that I wasn't just going to stand there and take it. Stephanie caught up to me just as I reached my car, heels clicking against the pavement, breath uneven. "Why are you leaving?" she demanded, her voice laced with frustration, like I was the one ruining her night. I leaned against the car door, crossing my arms. "Why do you care?" Her eyes flickered, a second of hesitation, just long enough to tell me what I already knew. She wasn't expecting this. She had gotten too comfortable, too used to me being the guy who forgave, who overlooked things, who stayed. She started, but stopped, glancing back toward the venue. Was she hoping he would come out? Was she stalling, trying to figure out which version of the truth would get her out of this? I wasn't interested in hearing it. "I saw you, Steph." My voice was calmer than I felt. "You weren't exactly being subtle." Her face flushed. "Saw what?" "Come on," I said, shaking my head. "Do I really have to spell it out?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Because what could she say? That it was nothing? That it was just a dance? That I was imagining things? She knew I wouldn't buy it. And then, just like that, her whole demeanor shifted. "You're overreacting," she scoffed, arms crossing tightly over her chest. "God, can you not be so insecure for once? He's just a friend." There it was. The gaslighting. The classic attempt to make me question my own reality. I laughed, shaking my head. "A friend," I echoed. "Do your friends text you that they can't stop thinking about last night?" The color drained from her face. She knew. She knew she was caught. "Where did you—" she started. But I cut her off. "Does it even matter?" My voice was quiet now, almost tired. "I know, Steph. I've known for a while. I just wanted to see how far you'd take it." Her mouth opened and closed, eyes darting like she was searching for an escape route. The anger was gone now, replaced by something closer to desperation. "It's not what you think," she tried, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. "It never is it?" She exhaled sharply, pressing her fingers to her temples. Look, it was a mistake, okay? It didn't mean anything." I stared at her, at this woman I had built a life with, and realized something that should have been obvious a long time ago. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. "Yeah," I said finally, unlocking my car door. "Big mistake." And then I got in and drove away. Not because I was done, but because I was just getting started. Driving home, my mind was a storm. The anger, the betrayal, the humiliation. I felt it all at once, pressing down on me like a weight I couldn't shake. But underneath all that, something else was forming. Clarity. Stephanie had made her choice. She could try to spin it however she wanted, gaslight me, minimize it, make me feel like the crazy one. But I knew the truth. And now it was time for her to face the consequences. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to play the broken husband who lets himself be strung along, waiting for an apology that would never mean anything. No, I was going to make her regret ever thinking I was weak. I spent the next 2 days pretending, acting like I was still processing, letting Stephanie believe she had a chance to fix things, that maybe I just needed time to calm down. And she played along. She sent a couple of half-hearted apologies over text, said she was sorry for hurting me, but still refused to admit the full extent of what she did. That told me everything. She wasn't sorry. She just didn't want to lose the stability I gave her. So, while she was pretending to mend things, I was making moves. I started looking into our finances, what was in my name, what was in hers. We had a joint account, but I had my own savings, untouched and growing for years. I made sure every important document was backed up, every login secured. And then I started collecting the proof. I pulled up her phone records and cross-checked them with the nights she was working late. The number she kept texting? Not Ben's name, but the same digits over and over. I needed more. So I went through our home security system, the one she forgot we had. And just like that, I had it. Time-stamped footage of her sneaking into the house at 3 a.m. on multiple occasions, dressed in clothes she hadn't left in. A clip of her sitting in her car in our driveway, grinning at her phone before she walked inside. A message thread I managed to extract from her backup, full of flirty, suggestive texts that left no room for doubt. That was it. That was all I needed. Now it was time for step 2. Stephanie had a trip planned. A weekend girls' getaway with some of her friends. I already knew what it really was. Another excuse to sneak off with Ben. I let her go. I kissed her on the cheek, told her to have fun. And the second she was out the door, I put my plan into motion. I met with a lawyer and laid out everything. Proof of infidelity, financial records, my plan to file first before she could even see it coming. I moved my half of the money out of our joint account and into my personal one. Nothing illegal, just securing what was mine before she had a chance to do the same. I packed up all her belongings into boxes and neatly stacked them in the garage. And then, for the final touch, I made one last call. To Ben's wife. I had debated whether or not to involve Ben's wife. Part of me thought, why drag another person into this mess? But then I remembered what it felt like. Watching Stephanie drape herself over him like I was invisible. Remembered the lies, the gaslighting, the way she had treated me like I was some insecure idiot for suspecting what was right in front of me. No, Ben's wife deserved to know. So, I found her on social media. It didn't take long. Stephanie had tagged me in old posts from gatherings where Ben and his wife had also been present. I sent her a message. Hey, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think we need to talk about our spouses. She replied almost immediately. What do you mean? I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her straight. I have proof that my wife and your husband have been seeing each other behind our backs. If you want to meet in person, I can show you everything. Silence. For a minute, I thought maybe she wouldn't respond. Maybe she already knew but didn't want to face it. Then, finally, where can we meet? We picked a quiet cafe the next afternoon. When I walked in, I spotted her instantly. Mid-30s, tired eyes, the kind of beauty that looked worn down by disappointment. She didn't waste time with small talk. Show me. So I did. I pulled up the messages, the phone records, the footage of Stephanie sneaking back into the house at odd hours. She barely blinked as she scrolled through it all. I knew something was off, she murmured, more to herself than to me. I didn't want to believe it. I nodded. Yeah, I know the feeling. She sat back, exhaling sharply. Then, suddenly, she let out a small, humorless laugh. God, they really thought they were so damn clever, didn't they? I smirked. Yeah, but they're about to find out otherwise. Because the plan wasn't just to tell her. The plan was to ruin their little fantasy. Stephanie had no idea what was waiting for her when she got back from her girls' trip. I made sure of that. While she was gone, I had the locks changed, packed up all of her stuff, canceled her credit card on our joint account. And, just for good measure, I left a neat little envelope on the kitchen counter, filled with printouts of all the evidence. The texts, the call logs, the pictures, everything. I didn't leave a note. I didn't need to. Let her put the pieces together herself. I wasn't home when she got back, but I wish I had been, because according to my neighbor, who was kind enough to send me a play-by-play via text. Stephanie absolutely lost it when she realized what had happened. She pounded on the door, screamed my name, called me over and over again, leaving frantic voicemails. I didn't answer. Instead, I was busy attending a little gathering of my own. At Ben's house, his wife had invited me over. She thought it would be fun if I was there when she confronted him. And honestly, she was right. Ben's face went white when he walked in and saw me sitting there. His wife was holding the same envelope I had left for Stephanie, except hers also included the divorce papers she had drawn up that morning. "Sit down, Ben," she said sweetly. "We need to talk." I wish I could say he fought back, tried to deny it, but he barely got a word out before she started listing off every single thing he had done. By the time she was done, Ben looked like he wanted to crawl out of his own skin. I didn't stick around to see how it ended for them. That wasn't my problem. As I left, I got one final text from Stephanie. "How could you do this to me?" I stared at it for a long moment before responding. "I didn't do anything to you, Stephanie. You did this to yourself." Then I blocked her. And just like that, I was free. It's been a few months now. The divorce went through without much of a fight. Stephanie knew she had no leverage. Last I heard, she tried to make things work with Ben. But surprise, surprise, it didn't last. Apparently, cheaters don't make the best partners. As for me, I'm doing better than ever. Took a vacation, reconnected with old friends, started focusing on myself in ways I hadn't in years. And you know what? Walking away was the best thing I ever did.